for this presentation. What you see here are basic steps that must be taken if a person is going to alter their paradigm. And if they're going to win, they've got to alter the paradigm. If they don't, they will eventually muster out of the business. Good people, smart people, nice people, but they don't make it. They have to understand how to change a paradigm. Why do you think Solomon said, all you're getting, get understanding? They've got to understand. You see, I think material like this has got to be taught. You don't just give something like this to say somebody, here, study that, fill it in. This isn't like you're getting a driver's license or something. This is a strategy, if you want, to help people earn millions of dollars. Now, if retention is the focus and freedom is the reward, then these kind of steps have to be looked at. This is a strategic plan. If you're going to build anything of any consequence, you have to have, I'll lay you odds if you could get into the head office and get into the heads of Mark and BK and Peter and the various. They've got a strategy. They've got a picture where they're going. They execute it. Well, when you bring a person into this business, frequently some of these people have never really been in business before, but they're going into their own business. This is not a job they've got. This is something much bigger. This is an opportunity to live the way people rarely even dream of living. See? I heard Tom tonight, I've heard him say this before, when he came into network marketing, he thought if I could get an extra $200 a month, if I could just get an extra $200 a month, and he ends up with an extra $200 a minute. Take a look at people in the company. You'll find most of them are quite different personalities. But they're all doing essentially the same thing. They may do it a little different, but they're doing essentially the same thing. They're helping people build dreams, and they make the changes necessary that they have to make in their personality to realize those dreams. And that's the strategy. So, I want to suggest you really think for a moment. School gave us valuable knowledge. However, school never taught us one thing about changing paradigms. Now, this is rather strange. I find it very strange because I didn't go to school. I went to high school for 2 months. So the education I got on my own. I didn't get it in a formal situation. But in working with some of these professionals that I work with, I'm always amazed that this isn't something that they really pay attention to. So you'll find a person go out into the world with superior knowledge, and yet they're getting inferior results. Now, that causes a lot of confusion and frustration. And that causes confusion and frustration with a lot of affiliates in this company. They got all kinds of knowledge. They're absolutely brilliant, and yet they're blowing it. They're not making it. Why? Well, let's take another look at it. There's the individual, and there's all the knowledge in their consciousness. You can give them the roadmap or whatever it is that you give in your particular group, and they'll study it. And if you ask them questions, they could probably answer them fairly. But yet, if you look at the results aren't there. The results have no relationship to the knowledge that they have. You'll find people that are absolutely brilliant, and they're broke. Why is that? It's because the part of our mind that has all the knowledge is not the part that's controlling our behavior. And I can assure you, most of the people that you're bringing into your organization today do not understand that. Yet it isn't just being able to repeat it, said it. I'm talking about really understand it. You see, their paradigm is what controls the behavior and causes the result. If the result's going to change, the paradigm has to change. You've got to change the paradigm if you're going to change the results. You've got to build a new paradigm. So then the question comes, well, how do you do that? Well, this is something that I began to look at. I was living in... I had been given this book. I was 26, and I was losing in a very big way. I really didn't know too much of anything. And the man that gave me this book, he got me to sit down and take a look at myself and my life. Then he said, listen, you can have anything you want, but you're going to have to change your life. And he asked me, what did I read? And I said, I can't read. Now, that wasn't true. I couldn't read very well, but I could. And I later found out I read it about as well as most people. Do you know that most people read at about a grade 3 or 4 level? And that's because we learn to read by the time we're in grade 3 or 4, and we never improve upon the skill from that point on. Well, at any rate, he said, Napoleon Hill wrote this book. He spent his entire life putting this together. He said, I think it would be a very prudent part on your mind if you spent the rest of your life trying to understand and apply what he put together. Now, I really don't know why I decided I was going to do that, but I did. And I started to study it. I was working on the fire department in Toronto. It was actually a suburb of Toronto. It was East York. It was broken into many areas. I'd been working there for a few years. One person since 1934 had quit that job. And I quit. I quit because I was reading this book, and I was talking to a couple of people who were in business for themselves. And I became aware that I was never going to earn more money than what the chief decided I would earn. And I knew I'd never be the chief. There was only one chief. And I knew I wasn't a particularly great fireman. And I heard one day a guy said that there was good money cleaning floors. I said, I'm not proud I'll clean floors. I owed everybody I knew money, and I had to borrow $1,000, it was $980 to be exact, to buy a used floor machine and a bucket and a mop. And I was going to start cleaning floors. And when I quit the fire department, everybody thought I was right out of my mind. And they said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to clean floors. He looked at me and said, are you serious? I said, yeah. I was almost embarrassed to tell them. But I did it. Now, do you know, at the end of the first year, studying that, being coached by a man and doing exactly what he told me, his name was Ray Stanford, I was earning $175,000 a year. Now, there's all kinds of people in Vemma that start out much the way I was, and at the end of the year, will be earning that kind of money. In less than 5 years, I was cleaning floors in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. And it was when I was in England that I was sitting and I was trying to figure out, what the heck how did this happen? I did not believe that there was an emotional or capricious God on a cloud that blessed me and left everybody else to swim. I was raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you got to be really smart. And I knew I wasn't that smart, but I was earning a fair amount of money. I was also raised to believe if you're going to do well in business, you've got to have a good formal education. I didn't have any. I started to question everything that I believed. And I found that most of my beliefs were absurd. But it took me 9 years to figure out why I changed. And when I figured out, all I wanted to do was teach it. It took me that long to realize I had changed the paradigm. And this is where it starts. See, that's what Stanford got me to do. He got me to sit down and build a vision in my mind. That's why Solomon said, where there is no vision, the people will perish. We're not taught what our higher faculties are. We are raised to live through our senses. We go by what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. But we have higher faculties. We've got perception, intuition, memory, the will, reason, and imagination. The imagination is the mental faculty out of which visions arise. We have to encourage a person to activate their imagination and begin to build a picture in their mind of where they want to go. I was talking to a young lady in the hotel yesterday, and she said she wanted to be an ambassador, and I said, well, then you got to act like an ambassador. Oh, she said, no. I said, you got to think like an ambassador. You got to feel like an ambassador. You got to act like an ambassador. That isn't something you're going to get. It's something you've got. You see? There's an enormous difference there. Most people are working toward getting there. You've got to already be there. You've got to build the picture and live with it. I suggested that she get the movie Lawrence of Arabia. She'd never heard of it. I said, well, go and get it. I give her my email address, and I said, send me a note after you get it. I said, Peter O'Toole starred in it. Peter O'Toole just passed away. T. Lawrence was a British soldier. And just prior to the First World War, he went to fight with the Arabs against the Ottoman Turks in the desert. And they called him Lawrence of Arabia. And that's what they made the movie on. Well, Peter O'Toole, if you watch that movie, he mentally became Lawrence. When you see him riding on the camel and you look at him, he's not acting. He has become Lawrence. Go get the book by Stella Adler, The Art of Acting. It's a phenomenal book. She was one of the greatest acting teachers that ever lived. She was Marlon Brando's teacher. In fact, he wrote the foreword in the book. Now, Stella Adler never actually wrote a book. After she passed away, a man named Kissel took all her lessons and put them in a book. So when you read the book, it's not like you're reading a book. It's like you're going to her acting classes. Now, all the great teachers told us we've got to act like the person we want to become. Well, this isn't just a phrase. This is the actual deal. You've got to build the vision in your mind. Then you've got to buy into the vision. You've got to become it. This was the first thing Bill Gove taught me. Is you're going to see yourself doing what you want to do. Let that idea rule. Don't let the paradigm control you. Build the picture in your consciousness. And that's what you have to do. But you've got to teach the person to do this. That's one of the first steps. Genevieve Behrend said, the exercise of the visualizing faculty keeps your mind in order. If there's no order in their mind, there's no order in your outside world. Many of the affiliates, there's no order in their world. They're going this way and that way. There's no order. She said the exercise of the visualizing faculty keeps your mind in order and attracts to you the things you need to make your life more enjoyable and in an orderly way. She went on to say, if you will train yourself, yet in the practice of holding the image of what you want in your mind, you'll soon find your thoughts and desires will proceed in a more orderly procession. In other words, you're not going to be involved in chaotic thinking. We are only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. That's it. We are only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. The great secret to building your Vemma business is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention firmly and repeatedly focused on the object to be accomplished. Get the picture in your mind. Play this game for a moment. Ask your imagination, what do you see coming my way this year? Look at your imagination as being some part of you that you can talk to, and it'll talk back to you. Where do you see coming my way this year? Get your imagination going. Get your heart into it. And then get specific. Really dream. Don't just come to the conference and leave and say, wow, it was great. Leave with a specific dream in your mind and make up your mind what you're going to come back here as on the physical plane at next year's conference. You can take quantum leaps in a year. A year's a long time when you're really applying yourself. Visualizing, it's the biggest thing there is. Now, when I first started to read that book and follow Ray's direction, that's what I was. He didn't talk about visualizing because you got to get a picture of what you want. Then you have to be coachable. Do you know that most people are not coachable? I have a coaching company. I'm coaching one person, one-on-one. He's 21 years old. He's paying me $150,000 to coach him for a year. Last year he earned $1.3 million. This year he'll earn $4 or $5 million. He's 21 years old. Kid's absolutely brilliant. He's coachable. He's 21. And he's got the mentality of somebody in their 40s or 50s. He's brilliant. But most people are not coachable. I find that people want you to coach them, but they want you to coach them their way. It doesn't work. It does not work. I was very fortunate that I met the man that I did in 1961. I was 26. His name was Ray Stanford, and he said, if you do exactly what I tell you, until you find out that I'm lying to you or that I don't know what I'm talking about. Now, he said, I don't tell lies, and I do know what I'm talking about. And God only knows why I decided I was going to do that. I had never done that with anybody. I was not coachable up to that point, which is the probable reason why I was losing. And I started to do exactly what he told me. And then I got Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant as coaches. Then Bell Vanderwall, and Dr. C. Harry Roeder, and Bill Gove. And I did exactly what those people told me. It's helped me earn millions of dollars. I sat in a den in a house in Maplewood Lane in Glenview, Illinois. And I made up my mind way back in 1970 that I was going to build a company that operated all over the world. And we're in over 100 countries today. And I didn't get that smart. But you want to know the secret? You've got to have a good team. You've got to have a good team. If you're going to have a good team, you've got to be a good team leader. There's excellent leadership in this company. Use them as a model. Make up your mind you're going to do what they tell you. And you're going to win in a big way. Then, this is really the key. Now, I listened to Alec today, and he was talking about turning his car into a school. Well, I'm going to show you how I turned my car into a school. This is a record. It's just a little one, but it's a record. And this is a record player. It's a portable record player. I drove around with this for a long time, and I still have it beside my desk. Is it coming?
Before we start, I'm not going to try to tell you how to live your life. That's none of my business, nor is it anybody else's business. That's your business. Nor is this Lead the Field program a collection of
Okay. I have listened to that record thousands of times. You see, attitude is something that controls our life. Yet literally controls our life. As I was listening to this, I was thinking, BK was raised on this. His family raised them on these records. In fact, his dad used to sell them. That's where he started, with SMI. Go ahead. His paradigm is manifest in this company. Your paradigm is manifest in yours, and mine, in mine. Our attitude is our way of thinking, feeling, and action. It's everything about us. Changing attitudes is not a simple thing to do. And without the repetition of information, the same information over and over again, odds are pretty good the attitude will not change. Earl called it the magic word. Well, I played that record over and over and over again, thousands of times. And you know something? It's what changed my attitude. Now, it took me 9 years to figure this out. It was by listening to this information over and over again, the same information. See, if a person's going to change their behavior, if they're going to change their behavior, they have to change their paradigm. If they're going to change their paradigm, they've got to start programming new information into their mind. Because your paradigm is both genetic and environmental. It's been ideas programmed into your subconscious mind before you ever had the ability to think. And if we're going to change it, we're going to have to change it the same way it was programmed. It's totally illogical what we have to do, which is the probable reason so few people do it. Now, this is part of what you're teaching. This is part of the strategy when you bring a new person in. If they don't understand this, odds are pretty good they will not stay. Then you've got to hit them with the big one. They've got to make a commitment. But the commitment is a two-way thing. You don't make it all alone. You got to make one to them, and they've got to make one to you. I was working at the LAX Marriott here just probably about a month ago. And Sandy Gallagher, who's my business partner, she said, "Do you want to go for a walk?" And I thought, yeah, we'll get out of the hotel. So we're walking down Century Boulevard. It was a nice day. And I looked up, and I saw an enormous billboard. And I thought, wow, look at that. That is phenomenal. This is what I was looking at. We don't accept applications, only commitments. Everybody knows that Marines, the United States Marines, are powerful. They have phenomenal training. They build something inside a person, but it's not done by accident. The Marine has to make a commitment, and the Marine to make a commitment. Can you imagine if you approached your new affiliates this way? You see, I think if you don't approach them this way, you're missing something. You've got to get them to make a commitment, And you've got to make a commitment. And then you both have to live up to it. Now, I think this is where the leadership, the education, and the consistently high standards of service come into play in this game. I think this is how it works. This is right in the beginning. And if both of those commitments are not made, it isn't going to work. If they are made, that is when you're all in. You see? It all isn't a matter of saying, I'm all in. Being all in, it goes two ways. You got to get them to be all in, and you've got to be all in. You're going to make a real commitment that you're going to be there. And rather than complain because they're not doing something, understand their paradigm is controlling them. And if they're going to do it, you're going to have to help them understand why they're doing what they're doing, why they're not doing the things that they have to do. You may be uncomfortable, but if you're not prepared to pay that price, you don't deserve the reward. I died 1,000 deaths getting up in front of an audience, even a little one. Today, I'm very comfortable here. I'm just as comfortable here as if I was at home petting my dog. But that doesn't happen by accident. You program yourself for everything you do. And you must understand that your present results are a manifestation of your programming. One of the first things I ask a person if they come to work with me, what's the most you've ever earned in a year? I don't really care what the answer is. But I want to know what the answer is. Because I know the second they tell me that, I know where their paradigm is. Yet if I'm going to get them to do what I would like to see them do, I'm going to have to get them to change that paradigm. These young people that are making it, I guarantee you, they're changing the paradigm. They wouldn't make it if they didn't. The young people that don't make it, they don't change the paradigm. But that doesn't just do with young people. This is people. It's male and female. It's young and old. We've got to make the commitment. Let's operate like the Marines. Let's really dig into this concept. Let's get retention so deeply sunk in our mind that it's a priority. Everything we do, we're either working towards retention or attrition. You can tell this to anybody, that you can get anything you seriously want, guaranteed. You can get anything you seriously want, guaranteed. The realization of a goal in Vemma is not a complicated process. In fact, it's a simple matter of cause and effect, as straightforward, consistent, and reliable as 2 times 2 equals 4. Now, read that through again. This is something you can sit down and say to somebody, look them square in the eye, and you can say, you can get anything you seriously want, guaranteed. The realization of a goal in Vemma is not a complicated process. In fact, it's a simple matter of cause and effect, as straightforward, consistent, and reliable as 2 times 2 equals 4. You want to remember, retention is the objective, freedom is the reward. You've got to stay plugged in. I started to read this in 1961. I still read it every day. I take it everywhere I go. I have never stopped reading it. If I stop improving what's going on in here, it's going to show up outside. I don't buy the idea that you have to slow down. I don't think anybody has to slow down. I think what we have to do is calm down, smarten up, start to understand who we are. We're God's highest form of creation. There is nothing on the entire planet that will equal the human. We are God's highest form of creation. Are we acting like it? You know that when a person doesn't stay plugged in, pretty soon they leave the business. You'll start to see them less and less. They'll start managing. Then they start complaining. They start blaming. And then they start disappearing. They're on their way out. And you know that everybody that they've had an influence over has been afflicted with what they have. This is such serious business. This is such a phenomenal organization. It offers so much. But you do have to stay plugged in. Daily activity is important because we only live a day at a time. We just live a day at a time. I was going to a speaking engagement in downtown Chicago with Earl Nightingale one day. Earl lived down the shore, and so he said, "You want to meet for breakfast before we go there?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to, Earl." I had a chance to be alone with him. I snapped it up. And I always had some well-prepared questions when I met him. And we're sitting, I can still see the two of us sitting in the restaurant. Earl was the most listened to man in the history of the broadcasting industry at the time. And I never saw Earl rushing anywhere. He had all kinds of operations going on all over the world. And he was always so well organized. And I asked him, I said, "Earl, how did you learn to master time management?" I can still hear his fork hitting the plate, and he looked at me and he said, "What the hell are you talking about?" He said, "I never mastered time management. Nobody masters time management." He said, "Time can't be managed. I merely manage activity. If you take this particular step of this strategy, burn it into your mind." He said, "I carry a card, and I write on it the important things I have to do tomorrow. And when I get up, I do them. I write the goal-achieving activities." I've been carrying these cards with me ever since I had breakfast with him. Nobody managed their time. You manage your activity, daily activity. I heard Alex talking about that here this morning, or this afternoon, I guess it was. And he talked about daily activity. He knew what he was going to do when he woke up. You know that people like Brad and Alex, you know they're active, or they'd never have the organizations they have. I watch Linda with daily activity. I've got to congratulate Linda on going star ambassador, it was, yeah. You know, okay. Yeah. But it doesn't happen by accident. Now, the strange part about this, I wrote something down that came to my mind today. You've got to do it by yourself, and you can't do it alone. It's a bit of a twister, isn't it? You've got to do it by yourself, and you can't do it alone. That's what you call a koan. A koan is something the master gives to the student. And when the student figures it out, they've raised their level of consciousness. No one has ever done anything of any consequence on their own. Anyone that has accomplished anything of any consequence has done it with a team. You want to make sure that your daily activity really gets you moving. That's why people come into this business. They may not phrase it that way. That's exactly why they come in. They want freedom. They want time and money freedom. They want to be able to do what they want with their days. Enough money to do what they want. They don't want to have to wonder, can I afford it? And it's amazing how much free time you have when you never have to think about money. When you're always short of money, there's an enormous amount of time spent. How I'm going to do this, how I'm going to do that. You know, Vemma has a strategy, a plan, where they offer freedom. All you have to do is focus on retention. It's so basic and so simple. I want to leave you with a quote that comes from T.E. Lawrence, from Lawrence of Arabia. He said, "Everybody dreams, but not equally. Those who dream by night, yet in the dusty recesses of their mind, wake in the day to find it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are powerful individuals, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible." This I did. Those were the words of T.E. Lawrence. I have on my wall a picture about that wide, that high, of a pencil sketch of Lawrence in his Arabian headgear and everything, with this quote below it. "Everybody dreams, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind wake in the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are powerful individuals, for they may act their dreams with open eyes to make it possible. This I did." That's what Lawrence said. That's what I do. That's what every leader in this company does. They dream by day with open eyes to make it possible. I have obviously enjoyed myself doing this. I enjoyed the time I spent putting this together. And I know it was an education for me, because, like most people, I had not spent a lot of time thinking about retention. I've worked around sales organizations all my life, and I know that attrition is an enormous problem. Stop and think of how many people have left your organization in the past month. How many come in and leave? Just imagine if you had an educational program, if you had leadership in an educational program, and consistently high standards of service to cause those people to live the way they told you they wanted to live when they come in. But they had the paradigm to change, and they didn't change it. Did they understand they had to? Did they understand how to? Are you teaching them? Let's remember what the mantra was. I want to thank you for your attention, and I want to thank BK and his staff for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Bob Proctor. Nice job, man. Nice job. What you guys just heard was the stuff that I grew up hearing all the time. My dad had a record player on the car seat. I mean, it adds in a whole new dimension to the word speed bump. But I would listen. I'd have put my little Army Man on there, and I'd turn it on, 45. You kids don't even know what this is. It's like a setting. 33, 45, and it'd spin off there. But hey, guys, Important, important, important. Think like an ambassador. When you guys are out tonight, you got to think and, more importantly, act like an ambassador. You're not going to hear anybody in these black chairs running up and down the halls yelling anything. So you need to act like an ambassador. We're going to be starting here tomorrow at 9 a.m. I don't want you guys sleeping in on your dreams, okay? When the alarm clock gets up, you get up like your life depended on it. You get in here because one idea in this business can make you a fortune, and we're here to deliver ideas all weekend long. You guys enjoy the night. Keep up the great work. I'll see you at what time tomorrow? What time tomorrow? Think like a... Good night, folks.
Yo, what's up, player? You already know what it is, man. This is Big Sean. Hey, man, I'm kicking